on this beautiful yet very windy day, I will attempt to do my usual little video review, this time on a refreshed, very attractive 2019 Porsche Macan. I know I need a mic, maybe one day I'll buy one, I don't know, I'm cheap. Now back to the Macan. I say refreshed because, well, it's only 4 years old, and it's starting to look a little older than that. So Porsche gave the Macan the once-over and brought it up to speed, if you will. Namely, the rear end is where these upgrades are most evident. Tail lights, hatch, bumper, very reminiscent of the new E3 Porsche Cayenne. It's also, well, reminiscent of the Panamera and the 992 Porsche 911. No matter how you look at this vehicle, it's still extremely attractive, well put together, and yeah, it's a Porsche Macan. Okay, so base price for a Porsche Macan, which in fact is what this is $56,100. Now I'm going to show you a couple of hints that'll let you know whether or not the Macan is an S or a turbo or a base. The first are the two single tailpipes. Whenever there's boost, or more cylinders I should say, involved, you get twin tailpipes on both ends. The other one, more obvious one, it only says Macan, not S, not turbo, just Macan. $56,100 to start for my tester this week. Then you get the S, just mentioned it, $63,600. In my mind, that's the way to go. Then there's the crazy turbo, which starts at $94,200. Now my 2-liter turbo base Macan is very well equipped. I won't go through the entire list, but the important ones are as follows. These gorgeous 20-inch Macan turbo wheels. They are 295/40 in the rear, 265/45 in the front. Crazy, wonderful Michelin Latitude Sport 3 tires. Okay, Sport Chrono package, as well as the Premium Plus package, which includes Apple CarPlay, panoramic sunroof, cooled seats, for a grand total of $74,000. Now remember I said that the Macan S starts at $63,600, right? Yeah. Okay, it's 500 liters of trunk space, very usable, very accessible. There's even room under here. And well, yes, that's where the ugly front Ontario plate belongs. It is a compact SUV, so the rear end is snug. The rear seat. There's room for a small child between the two baby seats, but otherwise the kids are happy and comfortable. This is a Porsche Macan after all. Oh, by the way, the color is Dolomite Gray, which is beautiful. I love the interior color as well. Unfortunately, my brain is fading. I don't remember the color, but the combination of this brown gray and the Dolomite Gray is fabulous. Now let's just get inside and cut the wind noises. All right, you are faced here with your typical Porsche gauges, which, I mean, I've seen the Taycan's interior and the latest 992 interior, and I just have an enormous soft spot for these beautiful traditional round gauges with the big analog tack in the middle. Anyway, this is also updated. It is the new 10.9 inch screen, which is fabulous. Touchscreen control as well as redundant hard buttons, very intuitive, works quite well. And what tells you right away that the Macan is a little bit older is this wonderful cascading series of buttons. Again, I've seen the Taycan, I've driven the 992, and there's just something about these physical buttons that I think will age beautifully as I'm kind of stroking them. Maybe I should put a not safe for work tag on this video. But yeah, my vehicle is fully equipped. And I said Sport Chrono package. There's the clock up there. I have PASM as well, active suspension management. It's I said the cooled seats. Where are the cooled seats? Looking through my phone is a little bit difficult. There we go. I love all of these controls. The seats are incredibly comfortable, very supportive. There isn't much storage room in here, but you know what? Who cares? What it is beautiful. The craftsmanship, the materials, the textures, the fit, the finish. It's just incredible. It's right up there with all other Porsche products, even if this is the base, most accessible Porsche product you can buy. Steering wheel is brilliant. There's your new drive mode selector, which I like and not crazy about, but what the hell do I know? At least you have a few options down here, such as your suspension settings. And yes, this has an off-road mode. All right, I think that's enough of the inside. I think that's enough of a tour. Let's take her for a little spin, and essentially I can tell you that there is only one minor little issue with this Macan. I think you'll have figured out what the one small issue is. And to be quite frank, the issue is on a personal basis. For most Porsche buyers, one of the principal criteria for the purchase, if not the principal criteria for the purchase, is the performance, which the base Macan has performance, but not to the level that most would expect. The 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo produces 248 horsepower from 5,000 RPM to 6,750, and 273 pound-feet of torque from 1,600 to 4,500. This thing weighs 4,000 pounds. So that means that, I mean, once it gets going, it does keep going, because there is no drop in actual power delivery. It's just a question of physics. This kind of power, this kind of mass. I mean, it'll do, the base Macan will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.7 seconds. With the Sport Chrono package, that drops to 6.5 seconds. If you look in comparison to the Macan S, which has 348 horsepower and 352 pound-feet of torque, in a vehicle that weighs essentially the same thing, a couple hundred pounds more, you're slicing a solid second off the 0 to 100 sprint. So therein lies the performance issue, the personal performance issue with the Macan, the base Macan. For other Porsche buyers, what they want is the efficiency, the luxury, the build quality, the brand association, because all of that is included in your base, affordable $56,000 Macan. I have a little bit of a hard time with that. But there's an efficiency aspect too. If this thing can be driven intelligently, which unfortunately I fail at miserably, you can average, excuse me, screaming outside has done wonders for my throat. You can average about 8 liters per 100 kilometers. In a vehicle of this stature, that's pretty impressive. I can't average under 10, unfortunately, but again, that's me. It's a personal problem, because I want that performance out of my Macan. But thankfully, now I did mention this has PASM, Porsche's active suspension management, which means that minus the straight line speed, this thing handles incredibly well. Drives like few other SUVs, period. Now here's an interesting comparison. I stepped out of a Stelvio Quadrifoglio into this thing. So the Stelvio has more than twice as much power as this thing. Weighs essentially the same thing. But when I got into this thing, the sense of build quality, of strength, of durability, the impression that this thing will last an eternity just explodes in your face. It's unbelievable. I'm not saying the Stelvio is bad or cheap or anything like that. I'm just saying it's not built like a Porsche. It's just not a Porsche. And I'm nearly convinced that on a track, with everything set in Sport Plus, once you get the momentum going through a few S's, it won't be that much of a difference. At least the Stelvio will certainly not be twice as fast as this thing, not even remotely close. So I mentioned Sport Plus. So yeah, so this has drive modes. You have your normal drive mode, which is what I've been driving in at the moment, or for the last few minutes. Sport is a nice, beautifully balanced way to get a little bit more responsiveness out of the 4-cylinder. And the dampers are set in Sport too. The beauty is that in this chassis tune, the dampers do not negatively affect drive quality whatsoever. It's beautiful. There's a Sport Plus, I mentioned it. There's also an individual mode. And normally I would have the chassis tuned or set up in absolute most softest, comfortable mode. But I have the driveline set in Sport Plus and the chassis in Sport. A beautiful combination, which probably explains why I can't average under 10. I may have hit a little over 11 on a few occasions, but I have issues, okay? I'm willing to admit it. Steering, compared to the Stelvio, for example, was the most immediately obvious difference. This thing has weight. It's like tightened to 11, like within a quarter millimeter of a 64th of an inch of snapping, but it's so good. The Stelvio steering is so light, still precise, but what a difference. The only other thing that somewhat bothers me with this particular Macan, brake pedal response. Now this only has the standard steel brakes, which are still immensely powerful and durable. Oh yeah, 7-speed PDK. Still an absolutely brilliant transmission. So perfectly adapted to this vehicle. So yeah, the brakes, sorry, I digress there. Initial pedal response, well, there isn't. It's mushy. It's terrible. I mean, I am stepping out of a Stelvio that had ceramic brakes, which essentially bit before I hit the pedal. That's it. Those are the gripes. Those are the issues with this thing. I could use more power, but that's me. I wouldn't spend this kind of money on this version. I get an S with fewer options, and I don't know, check something to do with the brakes. But otherwise, this Macan will be with me, will bury me essentially, and I will love it for almost ever. Almost, only because I need more power.